So not even 2 weeks later and we're already making another video about how Destiny 2 is dying. So in this video, I kind of wanted to go more in depth with this conversation and share some of my concerns about the game moving forward. So first up, I want to cover the player count right now at the current moment because I feel like this information is very important and is the best way to see how the community currently feels about the state of the game. So first up, we have Steam, which is about a third of the total player base in case you don't know, and as of about 5 p.m. on November 30th, there's about 34,000 people playing the game right now, and hitting about 43,000 for the 24-hour peak. Now if we take a quick look at a snapshot taken from Charlemagne, we can actually see that about a third of the player bases are covered across Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation, and with about only 1% or less coming from the Epic Games Store. So if we do some quick math, we're sitting at about 100,000 players across all three platforms on this game right now, which is extremely low. Now I can't say for certain, but I would have to imagine that the same exact things that are happening on Steam are happening for the console player base as well, which makes up 2/3 of the total population count for the game. And the nice thing about Steam is that it has some much more in-depth analytics, so we can actually see much more detailed numbers about what the player base is doing. So as you can see here, we have a handy Steam chart that gives us some pretty good detailed information about the player base in the game right now. I took a screenshot of the past year on a monthly basis, and as you can see here, we are clearly hitting the lowest low we've ever hit in the past year, and this is very concerning to me. As you can see here, last November we hit down to 76k, but also don't forget that Witch Queen got postponed by like 3 months, which definitely stalled out the game a little bit, and we still managed to have over 16,000 more players on the game than that. That is definitely also a pretty bad low, but I mean, we're down to 60k right now, which is very alarming. And I already know that some people are going to be like, go look at some older screenshots, I'm sure the player base dipped even lower than that, this isn't that big of a deal, but I actually went as far back as the Steam charts would allow me to go, and the alarming thing is that even during the lowest of lows for this game, the player base count never even came close to what it is right now. So we took a screenshot of the year prior, and as you can see, we're going from October of 2021 back to November of 2020. There were only 3 months during this entire year span where the player base dipped below 100,000 players, the worst of which being in January 2021, where it dipped down to about 80k. That's still about 20,000 higher than it is right now. And then we could take a look at the year prior to that, going from October of 2020 back to October of 2019. This is actually as far back as the Steam charts allows you to go. And as you can see here, only a handful of months actually went below 100k, and nothing comes close to what we have right now. So I just wanted to show this information first because I feel like it's really important, and it's the best visual representation that can be shown in order to reflect the community's stance on the state of the game. So just to give you guys a little bit of background about myself, I've been playing Destiny 2 since the servers went live midnight of September 17th, 2017, and I also own every single expansion this game has ever had on multiple platforms. And I've put thousands and thousands of hours into this game and done every single piece of content that Bungie has ever created for it. So I've been there through it all. I've stuck around every single season. I hit max rank on every pass. I do every raid, every dungeon, every new activity that comes out. I chase every new weapon. I go for god roll armor. I farm endgame content. I basically do everything in this game because I'm a completionist. And when I start to see player numbers dipping as low as they are this season, that's pretty alarming to somebody like me. Now normally I would just write it off because it's pretty typical for players to start doing this around this time of the season. There's not much going on, people are pretty bored, and they're just waiting for the new content drop to roll around. But I feel like when you're Bungie and you start to see your player numbers dip the lowest they've ever been in like the past 3 years, you gotta wake up a little bit and start to understand why that's actually happening. The thing is, I feel like the seasonal model just doesn't work for Destiny 2 anymore. I feel like waiting 3 months to get a little bit of content and then it's kind of drip fed throughout the season just doesn't suffice the player base anymore. People get bored, after a couple weeks they leave and they go play other games, and then they kind of talk shit about Destiny again. I just feel like Bungie is relying way too much off of their live and sandbox teams in order to keep the game feeling fresh. They do it to just put some information in the TWAB and trick the player base into thinking that there's actually something going on, and basically in hopes that they'll stick around until the next big annual expansion, when it's really not their job to actually innovate the game. Personally, I've always been a big fan of when we get the whole season at once and we can grind it at our leisure. I've never really been a big fan of the drip fed content. However, that is the way Bungie wants it to go. They want players to keep coming back every week. However, I feel like it's actually hurt them more than it's helped them, but overall, that's just my opinion. I know some people like it. For me personally, I don't though. Anyways, let's take a quick trip down memory lane Lane back when Bungie was backed by Activision. Everybody remembers the boogeyman known as Activision back in the day, and how Activision screwed up Destiny 2 by forcing Bungie's hand to meet deadlines and other criteria, but overall, I don't really think it was the case. I was actually a believer back in the day too when they were going to part ways with Activision, and I had their back as well. We all know that Activision was truly disappointed in Bungie, not for their sales, but instead it was because Bungie started saying they weren't going to make a Destiny 3 and they didn't want to start pumping out Destinies every couple years like a Call of Duty series, and Activision obviously didn't like that. And a large portion of the community, including myself, backed up Bungie and favored the idea of Bungie continuing to build off of Destiny 2 and avoiding having a fresh restart like we did going from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2. And then finally, after 8 long years, Bungie finally dropped their partnership with Activision, and we all thought that this was going to be the start of a new era in Destiny 2 and that Bungie was really going to take the game by the reins and lead it in the direction that we all wanted them to. But let's be honest, ever since they parted ways with Activision, all we've gotten is a seasonal model that's designed to get us to the next big annual release and a bunch of recycled content from Destiny 1. Now obviously I'm kidding, I've never really been a big fan of bringing everything from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, that just feels like basically laziness to me. But anyways, they have come up with some things, but there hasn't really been a lot of innovative content that's come into the game since they parted ways with Activision that they have truly come up with on their own. Anyways, back in early 2021, they started talking about how they wanted to expand their facilities and hire more people, and we thought this was going to be a really good thing for Destiny 2, and we were really hyped about this. However, the more I think about this, the more I feel like it was for other IPs advancements and not so much for Destiny 2's. And then Bungie decides to get backed by Sony, and Sony decides to buy Bungie out for $3.6 billion, and to be honest, I feel like not a single cent of that money has actually gone into Destiny 2. And that's just so crazy to me because seemingly Bungie tried so hard to part with Activision to lead the game in the direction they wanted to, but yet they're just letting the player base fall off and they don't really seem to be urgent about trying to fix it. So now we've parted with the boogeyman, we have more facility space and $3.6 billion to mess around with, and we still can't make the game good. We're actually losing players. I mean, I don't know what else to say really. This is either proof that Bungie doesn't know what they're doing and they don't know which direction to take the game, or Destiny 2 is on the back burner right now while they're working on other things. It just kind of blows my mind because Bungie has such a dedicated, loyal fan base that they've grown over the years, and they're now hitting all-time lows, and after all that success that they supposedly had by expanding their facilities, getting the money from Sony, this, that, the other, and basically doing good on their own, the game is kind of doing worse than it's ever been, and they don't really seem to be taking any strong actions to kind of correct it. And I don't even want to get into the state of the game and how like the core playlists need a refresh and how PvP is literally like dying like slowly and painfully right now and needs all the love and care it can possibly get. I don't even want to jump into any of that because that could be a whole separate video. Anyways, this doesn't mean I'm going to quit playing Destiny 2. I'm still going to enjoy playing the game to the best of my ability. It just simply means I might not be playing as much Destiny 2 as I used to. Like I said in my previous video, once I get bored of the game, I go and play other games, and I'm not really afraid to do that. Anyways, it's just so crazy to me that Bungie has taken so many W's supposedly, but yet the game is in the worst place it's ever been, and everybody who thought that Bungie was going to make the game great, you've kind of been proven wrong so far. Anyways, maybe Bungie needs a couple more billion from Sony in order to make the game great again, who knows. Anyways, thank you guys all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this in the future, and I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Stay frosty.